The Little Book of Main Street Money 21 Simple Truths that Help Real People Make Real Money by Jonathan Clements. Read by Avicenna. Chapter 1. Our finances are bigger than a brokerage account. Pondering the paycheck in the mirror. Think big, really big. Ask folk about their financial lives and they might mention their 401k retirement savings plan, their bank account, and their mortgage. But in truth, our financial lives are far, far larger. How large? Wrap your brain around these four contentions. 1. Retired teacher around the corner shouldn't have nearly so much in bonds, and certainly far less than the retired lawyers who live next door. Number 2. Your penniless 22-year-old niece is a millionaire and she should diversify by investing heavily in stock. Number 3, your real estate agent may be super savvy when it comes to the property market, but that doesn't mean she should buy rental real estate. Number 4, your brother-in-law is betting on stocks with borrowed money and he doesn't even know it. Puzzled? To understand what's an issue here, consider everything you own and everything you owe. Taking stock. As you tot up your asset, your thoughts probably turn first to things like your saving account, individual stock and bonds, mutual funds, and real estate. But don't stop there. You would also want to include your Social Security retirement benefit and any pension you are entitled to. When you and your spouse die, your Social Security and pension may cease to have any value. But while you are alive, these two assets are like enormous bones kicking off the heaps of regular income. A fixed monthly pension is similar to a conventional fixed interest bond, gathering the same income every year. Meanwhile, Social Security in its current form is like owning a big inflation index bond, delivering a stream of income that rises along with inflation. That brings us to our retired teachers who receive pension for all of their years of service in the local school district. If those pensions cover much or all of their living expenses, they won't need much income from their conventional investment portfolio, thus freeing them up to invest more heavily in stock. Stocks don't kick off as much income as bonds, and they involve considerably more risk, but they also potentially deliver higher long-run return. In fact, investing heavily in stock will diversify our retired teachers and bond like a pension, and it could salvage their standard of living later in retirement. The reason, if their pension are fixed, the spending power of that monthly income will decline over time as inflation takes its toll. Later in retirement, they may find their pensions no longer cover all of their living expenses, but if they took the precaution of investing part of their portfolio in stocks and leaving it to grow, they may amass a handsome nest egg that will help sustain their lifestyle in their later years. By contrast, the retired lawyers next door are not entitled to a pension. Instead, to cover the living expenses, they will need to rely on their savings and Social Security. To ensure they have a reasonably reliable stream of income, they might hold a fairly standard retirement portfolio with maybe half of their money in bonds and half in stocks during their working years. The lawyer may have invested their savings more aggressively with a hefty percentage cash in stock and only a modest sum in bond. But back then, of course, they didn't need income from their portfolio because they had the regular paychecks coming in. Think of this regular paycheck as a return on human capital, possibly the most overlooked asset. This is the reason your penniless 22-year-old niece can consider herself a millionaire. She's like an enormous bond that will likely generate income for the next 4 decades, a bond that might easily be worth $1 million. As your niece considers how to invest her savings, she doesn't need yet more income. Instead, what she needs is the long-term growth so that one day she can afford to retire. With that in mind, and also to diversify her big bond holding, your niece might invest heavily in stock, but as she approaches retirement and the winning of her human capital, she will probably want to follow the lead of the retired lawyers, cutting back on stock and adding to her bonds. See Exhibit 1.1. As you think about how much you are worth, here are some assets and liabilities to consider. Assets: human capital, home, stocks, bonds, bank account, pension, social security. Liabilities: paying for retirement, children's college, other goals, mortgage, student loan, credit card debt, auto loans. Not everybody paychecks is like a bond. If you are a salesperson paid on commission, an employee of a financially troubled company, an actress who works sporadically, or an executive whose annual income varies widely because of an unpredictable bonus, your income is less bond-like and you may want to stash more of your saving in bonds, certificates of deposit, money market funds, and other conservative investments. That will give you assets that can be easily sold if your income proves lower than expected. Even if you are confident your job is secure and your income will cover your living costs, and you are therefore comfortable taking a fair amount of risk with your savings, you should think carefully about the type of risk you take. For instance, your real estate agent may be inclined but to buy rental real estate because he will well first on the property market and she figured that will give her an edge. Similarly, Silicon Valley workers might be tempted to invest in hot new technology company they heard about. Oil company employee might purchase energy shares. Almost everybody considers buying their employer's stock, and yes, some employees receive shares as a part of their compensation, but many others choose to invest heavily in their company stock. Buying what we know can be enormously comforting, but in these examples, it might not be smart. What if the real estate market implodes, the technology sector craters, oil price plunge, or our employee get into the financial trouble? In each situation, we are looking at the potential double whammy, both losing our jobs and losing our saving. Living with leverage. To complement your new expansive view of your assets, aim to adopt a similar approach to your liabilities. Your liabilities are not just your mortgage, student loan, credit card balances, and auto loans. They also include the cost of your goals, such as buying that next car and paying for your children's college education. And maybe more important, there is the cost of your retirement, which is the key reason you need to save and invest during your 4 decades in the workforce. I hate to reduce the broad sweep of our life to a grim calculus involving dollars and cents. Still, from a purely economic perspective, our working years can be viewed as a period when we amass financial capital so that one day we can live without the income from our human capital. Your niece's income earning liability may be worth more than $1 million, but that's just as well because the 7-figure human capital will come in handy as she seeks to amass a 7-figure retirement portfolio. Taking a broader view of your finances can bring some startling insights and some ways to improve your finances. Remember your brother-in-law who is investing in stock with the borrowed money and does not know it? We all engage in a mental accounting, associating the mortgage with the house and the auto loan with the car. But once we have these debts, they leverage our entire finances. Let's say your brother-in-law has $300,000 home, $150,000 in stock funds, and $50,000 in bonds and other conservative investment. Meanwhile, his debts include a $225,000 mortgage, a $20,000 car loan, and $5,000 in credit card debt. What he effectively has is $500,000 in real estate and investment, but half of it is spoke with borrowed money, so his net worth is only $250,000. This sort of leverage let us own more stuff than we can currently afford. It works best when our investments earn returns that are higher than the interest rate we are paying on our borrowed money. But leverage can also bite when things go wrong, sharply worsening our losses. If your brother-in-law's bonds held steady at $50,000, but his home slipped in value to $240,000 and his stock slumped to $110,000, his total asset will drop 20%. That makes him grim, but what's really grim is the hit to his net worth, which would plunge 40% from $250,000 to $150,000. Even without a market decline, leverage can sting. Your brother-in-law's bonds might be yielding 5% while his credit card could be costing 14%. The implication: your brother-in-law should probably cash in $5,000 of his bonds and use it to pay off his credit card debt. That would be reduced risk by trimming the amount of his borrowing and simultaneously save him money. Indeed, bonds and borrowed money can be viewed as mirror opposites. One pays you interest, the other costs you interest. You might even think of borrowed money as a negative bond. Your brother-in-law may assume he is being pretty conservative because he has $50,000 in bonds, but thanks to his $250,000 in debt, his net bond position is a negative $200,000, and he is forking over a lot more interest each month than he is earning. That doesn't mean his brother-in-law is taking too much risk. After all, if he has a paycheck coming in, he may have no problem servicing his debt. But as your brother-in-law approaches retirement and consider buying more bonds in his portfolio, he should probably also look to pay off his debt. That way, when he retires and no longer has a salary coming in, he will be earning a lot more interest than he is paying. Street smart: if you have a long time to retirement and a secure steady salary, consider diversifying this bond-like income by buying stock. Don't double risk by investing heavily in the economic sector that provides your paycheck. Borrowing allows you to own more stuff than you can currently afford, but it will exacerbate your losses during market downturns. Chapter 2: We can't have it all, and that means we need to make tough financial choices. Everything is a trade-off. If we take an expensive car lease, we will have less for the summer vacation. If we opt to splurge on the summer vacation, we won't have as much for saving. If we decide to save like crazy for a retirement and the kids' college education, we won't be able to buy a big house. Within reason, none of these choices is bad, but they are indeed choices. And yet often we give them scant thought. Instead, we absurdly spend here and save there without considering the implication for other areas of our financial life. In the previous chapter, we took the big picture view of assets and liabilities, and now it's time to take the same approach to spending and saving. Doling out dollars. As we decide how to divvy up our paycheck, we need to make 3 basic choices. First, we have to weigh purchasing one item versus purchasing another, and next we need to weigh purchasing today versus saving for tomorrow. And finally, when saving for tomorrow, we have to decide what will we save for. All this make it sound like we enjoy a world of possibilities, but that is hardly the case. A hefty portion of our paycheck is oftentimes already spoken for, claimed by essentials such as mortgage or rent, car payment, taxes, healthcare, utilities, and food. And once these have taken their bite, our room to maneuver is considerably smaller. To be sure, we can live beyond our means in the short term by taping our home's equity, racking up the credit card, or borrowing in other ways, but that is not sustainable. Over the long haul, we are constrained by our incomes, which is why it's so important to make conscious choices, rather than absurdly doling out our hard-earned dollars. As we dish out those dollars, we may need to cut corners. There is a daunting laundry list of good financial practices, including maxing out our employers for 401k retirement saving plan, fully funding an individual retirement account, stashing dollars in 529 college saving plans for our kids, buying a home, keeping an emergency reserve equal to 6 months of living expense, and covering ourselves with a heap of insurance, including disability, health, life, long-term care, homeowners, auto, and umbrella liability insurance. Overwhelming? It certainly is. Most of us cannot possibly afford to do it all, so we need to decide what's critical and what is merely desirable. Many folks have 4 basic goals. They want to buy a home, help the kids with college, pay for their own retirement, and make sure they are okay if they are hit with some sort of financial calamity. This last goal is often the easiest area to cut back on. Blanket insurance coverage may be comforting, but it is also mighty expensive. We can often trim costs by raising a policy deductibles or reducing its benefit. We may also get by with an emergency reserve equal to less than 6 months of living expenses if, say, we have easy access to borrow money through a home equity line of credit. Carrying less insurance and holding less emergency money can make particular sense if you and your spouse both work, even if one of you gets laid off or can't work because of an accident or illness. You may be able to squeak by on the other spouse's paycheck. Saving the kids. After you have reined in the money you spent on protecting your family, the decision gets tougher. Do you go for the big house, pay for the kids' college, or fund your own retirement? I would argue that if money is tight, it is no contest. Forget the big house, leave the kids, shovel those dollars into your 40k. I'm not arguing the real estate is a lousy investment. The children ought to pay their own college costs and that there is a virtue in financial selfishness. If you can afford to buy a big house and foot the bill for part of or all of your children's tuitions, that's great. But the fact is, you don't have to own a big house and you don't have to pay for the kids' college. But one day you will have to retire. This might seem like an unnecessary trade-off. Often the temptation is to put off saving for retirement and instead deal with the goal in order to they occur. That might mean buying the house in your 30s, paying for the children college in your 40s, and then saving for retirement in your 50s. But financially, it makes sense to deal with the goals concurrently rather than consecutively, and that means starting to save for retirement right away while scaling back on the house, keeping on the college funding. To understand why, suppose you are age 30, your kids might be just 15 years from college, and while your retirement could be 35 years away and you might live another 25 years after that. The college will maybe a whole lot closer, but the time horizon for your retirement money is far longer. That means you can take greater risks by stashing more of your retirement nest egg in the stock, and which should translate into higher long run return. In addition, with your retirement money, you may have to change to fund an employer's 401k plan. No investment vehicle, not even a 529 college saving plan with its tax-free growth, can rival the financial benefits of a good 401k. A traditional 401k plan will offer an initial tax deduction, tax deferred growth, and possibly matching employee contribution. Moreover, if you don't start saving for retirement by your 30s, it can be awfully tough to amass enough by age 65. I imagine a world where you can earn a steady 5% a year. That makes it modest, but we are also assuming no inflation. In a world without rising consumer prices, 5% would be a pretty handsome rate of return. Indeed, at 5% a year, if you save $400 a month starting at age 30, you would have $456,000 at age 65. What if you focus on other goals and don't get around to saving for retirement until age 40? Over the next 25 years to amass the same $456,000, you would need to stack away more than $760 a month. Getting an early jump on retirement saving does not just make the required saving rate less daunting, it also gives you option when you are in your 20s and new to the world. Your job might seem wonderfully exciting, and the prospect of working until age 65 might seem like a no big deal, but your 40s, the excitement may be long gone, and you might be looking to go back to school, which switch to a more stimulating but less lucrative career. If you have been saving diligently since your 20s, you will have the sort of option. If you haven't, you are really headed back to the office, possibly to your job you have to come loathe. But what about the kids? If necessary, your children can always borrow you to pay for college. In fact, there is a heap of financial assistance available to college students, including grant money and low-interest loans. By contrast, nobody will lend you money to pay for retirement, except maybe the local reverse mortgage lender. Want to retire in comfort, you will need to pony up cold, hard cash. Street smarts. Never forget that the dollar spent on one item is a dollar you can't devote to other desires. To make it easier to amass enough for retirement, aim to start saving no later than age 30. If money is tight, consider raising your insurance deductibles, keeping a smaller emergency reserve, purchasing a more modest home, and asking your kids to pay their own college expenses. Chapter 3: Money can buy happiness if we spend it carefully. Getting in touch with our inner caveman. We want the big house and the fancy car. We hanker after the fat pay rise and the next promotion, and because we are not entirely consistent, we also hunger for a life of endless leisure. Sound familiar? There is just one problem. While all of these things may briefly make us happy, none will buy us lasting happiness. Cast your mind back to the last chapter about the need to make financial trade-offs. If you have a sense you are not making the right choices, there is a reason. We just are not very good at figuring out what we want. Much of this, I believe, has evolutionary roots. Unfortunately, we can't go back and interview our hunter-gatherer ancestors, but we can take a pretty good shot at imagining what their lives were like. And then these folks were not focused on saving diligently so they could retire in 30 years. They were focused on surviving until tomorrow. That was no easy task. They strove relentlessly to feed and shelter themselves. They consumed whenever they could, and they were not the hype to launch around their caves and muse. I'm one lucky dude. In fact, I'm totally content with what I have, and there is really nothing more I could possibly want. We are not so different. Making progress. In recent decades, the US standard of living has vastly improved, and yet people on average report being no more satisfied with their life than they did in earlier decades. Money, it appears, has not brought much happiness. Why not? Psychologists have posited the notion of the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation. The idea we strive to get that bigger house or that next promotion, and when we achieve these things, we are indeed briefly happy, but soon enough the thrill wears off and we are lost in our something else, like our cave-dwelling ancestors. We are never truly satisfied and we are always striving to get ahead. Some have argued that what counts is not our absolute standard of living, but rather our income and wealth relative to those around us. Sure enough, people who are better off are more likely to say they are happy, but this may be a focusing illusion. When assessed at different point during the day, those with the higher incomes report suffering more anxiety and anger. But if you sit there, this walk down, and ask them whether they are happy, they think about their lot in life and they realize that they are relatively fortunate. They figure they ought to be happy, so that's what they say, and this does not mean money cannot buy happiness. As the people are lifted out of poverty and brought up to a fairly basic standard of living, their happiness can vastly increase. But after that, a lot of extra dollar don't necessarily buy a lot of extra happiness. We often find ourselves running on the hedonic treadmill, desperately pursuing happiness, but never making much progress. How can we get ourselves off the treadmill and squeeze more happiness out of the dollars we have? We need to set aside conventional notion of what the good life is all about and think much more carefully about how we spend our money and how we spend our time. On that score, here are 6 suggestions. Number 1, buy experiences rather than things. When we consider what we would do with extra money, we typically imagine buying things: the new car, the big house, the latest gadget, the new clothes. The problem is, the thrill from these purchases does not just fade up quickly. Worse still, this object can turn into a source of unhappiness. The car gets stretched, the house needs a new roof, the gadget breaks, and the clothes begin to look worn. These items, which had so captivated us when we first bought them, eventually come to irritate and annoy us. This is less likely to happen if we spend our money on experiences. Suppose we go out to dinner with friends, take the kids to amusement park, to travel to Europe with the family. True, the money is soon gone. These experiences are quickly over and nothing of tangible value remains, but that's an advantage. Unlike objects, experiences don't grow old and become irksome. Instead, all we are left with are cherished memories. We may even sanitize those memories as the years go by, so our cherished memories become even more cherished. Number 2, count your blessings. The thrill from the new house, car, gadget, clothes will soon wane. You will also quickly forget the latest promotion and the company pay rise. Even the trip to Europe will eventually become the distant memory. The contrary act of all of this. Go out and celebrate the promotion so you hang on to the good feelings for a little longer. Make sure you remember the trip to Europe by framing a few vacation photos and putting them up in the living room. Stop for a moment and admire your house. All of these things should slow the process of adaptation and give you a little more happiness for your money and your efforts. Number 3, strive for a sense of control. We don't do very well with uncertainty, to be sure. Some is inevitable, but some we inflict on ourselves. For instance, if buying the big house and the fancy car means borrowing a heap of money, we must suffer gnawing uncertainty as we fret over whether we can make the next monthly debt payment. If the big house is in a distant suburb, we will also have the uncertainty for a long commute, never knowing how bad the traffic will be or how late the trains are running. Research suggests that the commuting is terrible for happiness, often ranking as the worst part of our day. Number 4, find a purpose. Forget endless leisure. We don't really want that. Instead, what we want is a sense of purpose to our life. Each day we want to feel we are making progress. Psychologists talk about the notion of flow. That experience of being totally absorbed in an activity where you feel competent totally at what you are doing and where the hours just whiz by. Such a moment we can give us a profound sense of satisfaction. Keep this in mind as you think about how you spend your spare time and what you will do in retirement. We imagine we would be happy devoting the rest of our days to lazing around on the couch, watching the tube, playing golf and reading the newspaper, but we will likely be far happier if we take on challenging tasks that we are likely to succeed at. That might mean training to run a marathon, helping our favorite charity, remodeling the house ourselves, coaching a children's sports team, or going back to college to get a graduate degree. Indeed, retirement needs to be redefined. If we save diligently, we may be able to cut back the hours we work and we might not need the paycheck at all. But we shouldn't view our nest egg as buying us a life of leisure. Rather, what we are doing is buying ourselves a change to devote time to those activities we find most rewarding. Number 5, give a little. Volunteering is not just a good for the community, it also makes us feel good. In hunter-gatherer society, where a small group lived in tight communities, it was important to cooperate, to behave well toward others, and to have a good reputation. Maybe it is no great surprise that we enjoy helping our fellow citizens, even if we know we will never see them again. Number 6, make time for friends and family. Go out to dinner with the neighbors, fly across the country to see the grandchildren, take your spouse to the theater, host a family reunion, pay for the family to go to Florida, or simply invite friends over for a barbecue. Research suggests that spending time with those we love is a huge source of happiness. Looking for a good way to spend your money and your time. Try spending it with the friends and family. Street smarts. As you save diligently for retirement, also give serious thought to how you will fill your days once you quit the workforce, and what will give you a sense of purpose. To counteract hedonic adaptation, stop occasionally and contemplate the good things in your life and the good things that have happened. As you consider how to spend your time and money, make friends and a family a priority. Chapter 4. Even the best investors need to be great savers. Thrift does not come naturally, so try the trickery. Give me a choice between some savvy investors and some diligent savers. I would bet on the savers every time. The fact is, committed saver can add so much more to a portfolio growth. Let's say our savers suck away 20% of income each year, and that would put them far ahead of their fellow Americans who, as a group, save periodically close to zero. By contrast, if a group of stock mutual fund managers beat the market average by 1 or 2% of a year over the course of a decade, the manager would likely be hailed as a market-beating heroes. Yet the margin of victory is hardly impressive, and the real heroes will be our diligent savers. Moreover, for the stock fund manager, success to mean much in terms of dollars and cents, there needs to be a decent sum invested, and that again is the pure view of our committed savers. This is not which came first, the chicken or the egg question. Without some initial saving, there is no reward to investing. Seeking inspirations. The need to save, of course, does not come as a shocking revelation. Most of us know we ought to be starting away more money. We have all kinds of goals that are desperately important to us, including accumulating enough for the house down payment, funding the kids' college, and paying for our retirement. But despite all of that, we find it tough to knuckle down and suck away the dollars, looking for motivation, and here are 7 compelling reasons to spend less and save more. 1. The earlier we start saving toward our goal, the easier it will be to amass the necessary money. There are 2 reasons. First, the required monthly saving will be smaller simply because we can spread the effort over more months. Second, by starting sooner, we will likely to get more help from the financial markets and thus further trimming the required monthly savings rate. Number 2, spending today does not seem to be buying as much happiness. As we learned in the last chapter, the thrill we get from our purchases often faded quickly. Tempted to buy a new car before we fork over the necessary dollar or borrow the money involved, maybe we should try a cooling up period of a week or 2. That will give us time to consider whether we will get pleasure commensurate with the money spent. Number 3, saving regularly can give us peace of mind. If we know we are living within our means, we are more likely to feel financially content. Number 4, saving is a bargain compared to spending. Every dollar we earn and then spend will be subject to federal, state payroll, and sales tax. So maybe we end up with 60 or 70% worth of merchandise. Meanwhile, if we stash that dollar in our employer's 401k plan, we get to keep the entire dollar and we can leave it to grow tax deferred. We may even get a matching company contributions so our dollar immediately turn into $1.5 or even $2. Number 5, this brings up a related point. The tax code is stacked in favor of savers. There is a slew of tax favor accounts, including 401k plans, individual retirement account, Roth IRAs, cover deal education saving account, and 529 college saving plan. If we are investing through a regular taxable account, we can also take advantage of a low federal tax rate and a qualified dividends and the long-term capital gains. Moreover, those capital gains taxes don't come due until we sell our winning investment, which means we can postpone the tax bill simply by sitting tight. Number 6, it does huge sacrifices to become a top-notch saver. Suppose we step up our saving rate from 5 to 10% of our paycheck and just doubling the amount we save. To achieve this, all that's required is trimming our spending from 95% of our paycheck to 90%, a drop of just over 5%. Number 7, diligent savers need smaller retirement nest eggs. If we are a big-time saver, we won't just accumulate our desired portfolio more quickly, we will also need less money to retire because we are accustomed to a lower standard of living. Indeed, ironically, a big salary increase late in our career can make it harder to retire. As our salaries climb, we tend to raise our standard of living. That means we now need a larger nest egg to maintain that lifestyle in retirement. The problem is, before we got the pay raise, we were likely saving stuff. We were looking to replicate a more modest lifestyle. Result, to sustain our new higher standard of living after we quit the workforce, we either have to save a lot more every month or put off retirement by a few years. The numbers can be especially daunting when Social Security and retirement benefits are figured in. At lower income levels, Social Security can go a long way toward helping retirees maintain their previous standard of living. But at a higher income level, the Social Security becomes relatively unimportant and folks need a heap of saving to replicate their pre-retirement lifestyle. Trying our hands. All this raises a key questions. If shocking away money is critical to investment success, and there are so many rational reasons to say why is there so little of it going on, once again we can blame our cave-dwelling ancestors. They were not interested in delaying gratification. They didn't need self-control. Instead, they immediately consume whatever they earn. And today we need self-control. But as most of us can attest, it's a scarce commodity. We tend to eat too much, exercise too little, and spend too freely. To overcome this tendency, we need to find ways to trick, cajole, and force ourselves to do the right thing. For instance, to compel ourselves to save, we can sign up for our employer's 40K plan, which means the money is deducted from our paycheck before we get the chance to spend it. We might also sign up for an automatic mutual fund investment plan, where money is pulled out of our bank account every month and invested directly in the funds we choose, and this too forces us to save. To further bolster our saving, we might commit to rounding up the mortgage check to the nearest $100 so the $1,423 mortgage payment becomes $1,500, thus paying down our loan's principal balance more quickly. We have to pay the mortgage every month away anyway, so this is an easy habit to get into. Your mortgage company might even allow you to set up automatic payment chat, include the additional sum so that you are locked in to making these extra payments each month. To save even more, we might create oddball rules for ourselves, such as insisting that we save all the tax refund, year-end bonuses, overtime pay, insurance reimbursement, and money from a second job. Meanwhile, to make sure we don't dip into our saving, we could try mental accounting, allowing ourselves to spend more from our checking account while declaring that our saving, brokerage, mutual fund, and retirement accounts are all off limits. We should also be careful to avoid the illusion of saving, stocking away a healthy sum of each month, but simultaneously piling up the credit card debt, carrying a credit card balance, and paying the onerous financing charge ranks as one of the most foolish financial mistakes. Blowing the budget. In all of this, never have I used the dreaded word budgeting. It's an idea that is often lauded by financial experts, and yet whenever I ask folk whether they budget, the answer is almost always no, with a good reason. Budgeting does not work for most people. When we budget, the idea is to analyze our monthly expenditures, figure out ways to cut back, restrain our spending, and then save whatever remains at the end of the month. The problem is, we often get to the end of the month and discover there is no money to save. Along the way, we give into temptation, spend impulsively, blew our budget, and finish the month feeling badly about our spendthrift ways. And all in all, budgeting tends to be an unhappy and frustrating experience. We invariably spend more than intended, leaving us racked with remorse, and that's why we are better off forgetting the budget and instead simply stocking away money as soon as we get our paycheck. As the old pay yourself first strategy, we immediately salt away 10 to 15% of our salary, then force ourselves to live on whatever remains we know we have taken care of saving. That means we are free to spend our remaining income as we wish, without fusing over some silly budget or fretting that there won't be any money left over to save. Yeah, tempted to create a budget? Just say no. Street smarts. If you want your nest egg to grow faster, forget picking superior investment and instead focus on saving more. Make it a point to stock away tax refund, year-end bonuses, overtime pay, and any other extra money you receive. Chapter 5. Time is as valuable as money. Investment compounding? Yes, it is truly magical. The best day to start is today. Make no mistake, turning ourselves into committed saver is no easy task. Retirement seems far away. The sums we need to amass appear daunting. Controlling our spending is struggle. To make matters worse, our first few years as saver can be awfully discouraging. In those early years, when our nest egg is tiny, we won't get much help from investment gains. Instead, the key driver of our portfolio's growth is the raw dollars we sock away. And yet, if we can get through those discouraging initial years and accumulate a modest portfolio, the reward can be immense, and we should begin to see the wondrous benefit of starting early. Paying upfront. What benefits? The risk is the obvious, and the earlier we begin saving, the less we need to sock away each month to achieve our goals, and the more help we should get from the financial markets. To get a better handle on the importance of starting young, check out Exhibits 5.1. If you are aiming to amass $1 million by age 65, you would need to sock away a hefty $2,423 a month if you start saving at age 45. But if you begin at Age 25, the required monthly sum drops by roughly 3/4 to just $653. The saving rates assume a steady 5% annual return, which might seem low, but we are also assuming zero inflation. But if you preserve, you should reach the point of critical mass where your annual dollar investment can begin outstripping the sum you salt away each year. In the example discussed here, your $100 amount has turned into $26,840 after 15 years. If that $26,840 earns 5% over the next year, you will garner investment gains of $1,342 more than the $1,200 you are planning to suck away. In fact, your nest egg is now firing on all cylinders, with your saving and your investment gains combining to power your portfolio's growth. From that point forward, it should only get better, with the market performing to heavy investment lifting. In many years, your investment gains could drop the amount you are chucking away, but all this assumes you start saving in your first decade or so in the workforce, so you hit critical mass relatively early in your career. By contrast, if you put off saving for retirement until your 40s, you won't get nearly so much help from the financial markets. You will have to sock away heaps of money each month to reach your retirement goal. Working late? What if you are late to the retirement saving game and the required monthly nut seems too large? You could turn time to your advantage at the other end of your career by postponing retirement for a few years, and that will give you more time to save and more time to collect investment gains. You will also shorten your retirement. This means that when you quit the workforce, you might be able to draw down your nest egg more aggressively, and you should get a larger monthly check if you purchase an immediate fixed annuity that pays lifetime income. In addition, if you postpone retirement, you might delay claiming your Social Security retirement benefit, and that too will mean a larger monthly check. Hate the idea of staying in the workforce for a few extra years? Consider working part-time instead. On your reduced paycheck, you may not be able to save regularly, but by working part-time, you could put off the day when you have to tap your nest egg for income. Until then, your portfolio will have time to collect additional investment gain. Feeling virtuous. If you start saving in your 20s and you quickly amass a decent chunk of wealth, you won't just clock years of investment return. You could also lower your cost of living. After all, if you have some saving, you may be comfortable raising the deductibles on your health, homeowners, and auto insurance, and accepting a longer waiting time before benefits kick in on your disability of long-term care insurance. You may even amass enough savings so that your family would be okay financially if you die, and hence, you probably won't need as much life insurance. All of this will lower your insurance costs. Meanwhile, your growing wealth means you shouldn't ever have to carry a credit card balance and suffer the punishing financing charges that go with it. You may also be able to put down 20% when you buy your first home, so you avoid the cost of private mortgage insurance. Similarly, you might pay cash when you buy a car, or at least hold down the amount you borrow, and thus reducing the interest you pay. And when you do borrow, your burgeoning wealth and admirable credit history may mean you qualify for a lower interest rate, and also you could avoid the slew of irritating fees, including those for bouncing check, paying bills late, and having financial account below some specified minimum. You might even have enough to qualify for the fee reduction on a big account that are sometimes offered by financial advisors and mutual funds. Sounds appealing? It is. Instead of getting nickeled and dimmed in your financial life, you are in control. As you pile up some saving, you can cut your living expenses. That in turn will give you even more money to save each month. It's a virtuous cycle, and it could put you on the fast track to financial independence. Street smarts to get most from investment compounding, and afford to start saving as soon as you enter the workforce. If you save regularly for a decade or two, you should reach the point of critical mass where your annual investment gains often rival the sums you save each year. And take advantage of your growing wealth by looking for ways to cut back on insurance, financial accounts fees, and borrowing costs.